When the rain don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. When the rain don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. And it won't do no good to be crying.
I'm Rana, and on Sunday, February 17th, there was a huge rally in Washington, D.C. on climate change. I was unable to go, but I really wanted to hear about what happened at the rally and also to follow up on some of the issues that were being brought up. So my guests tonight are Roberta Parro and Louise Fabrikevich. They've both been on the show, but quite a while ago, and they're both very active in the Connecticut Sierra Club, especially in the Southeast Connecticut chapter. So welcome, Roberta, and welcome, Louise. And I know you two were on the bus to Washington, so do you want to tell us about it?
Definitely. Do you want to say something, Louise? You want to share your highlights?
Well, it was exciting. It was exciting. We had a bunch of kids, which was terrific.
Well, that is great.
And they went back to there were at least 16 Connecticut college students.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, yeah. Well, they came from all over Connecticut. The bus started up in Hartford, went to New London, to New Haven, and where?
Fairfield. I heard that a lot of people got on at Fairfield.
Yeah, we had 16 Connecticut college students, and some of the kids went back and said it was one of the best experiences of their life.
Well, that's really great. It was reported on here, but I won't say it was reported on in great detail.
Yeah.
There was nothing in the day, the following day, and well.
And we'll talk a little bit more actually about the media's role in some of these issues in the course of the discussion.
So I would say one of the other highlights, there were a lot of young people at this rally, which is both hopeful and at the same time I hope they don't get discouraged, because the rallies are there to, as Louise said, it's great to be together with like-minded people, and you're there to get rallied. Right. You hear some interesting speakers, and I want to say a little bit about my highlight there. But afterwards, we've got some work, which we'll talk about later, that we've come home to do. My highlight was actually listening to the First Nations, the chiefs from a number of those tribes. And there is a women-led movement in Canada right now called Idle No More. And they are trying to fight, I cannot remember the Canadian bill, but it is basically taking away what treaty rights that there are. And so they are trying to fight that, and at the same time they are also fighting hard for the places that their people have lived on for a very long time. It was very clear in listening to each of those speakers that they are very connected to the land, the air, the water, that place. And they also recognized the need for allies and called out to the different groups of people as they spoke. It brought tears to my eyes, and when we met afterwards at this cafeteria called Cosey's, other women talked about feeling like crying when they listened to them. I think the other highlight speaker was Senator Whitehouse from Rhode Island. He is trying to get his colleagues in the Senate and in Congress to take up this issue, and he was very, I thought, inspiring speaker. So those were some of my highlights there.
Were there any particular highlights you had?
Oh, it's just being there. Just being there. And finding out that Ocean Beach manager was about a half a mile away from me.
Well,
they went down to visit Washington and got caught up in the rally.
And you could get caught up. I mean, I saw estimates of 35 to 50,000. I guess so we're saying on the Connecticut site, 40,000 of us were there. And that was the largest climate rally. Louise and I had gone down November of 2011 for a rally around the Keystone XL pipeline trying to stop this. And so those of us who have been involved on that, We surrounded the White House there.
Louise's souvenir from
Right,
that rally.
right. I mean, there were about 12 to 15,000 people at that, so it really was exponentially larger. And I think that the events that we are seeing, the climate disruption with Superstorm Sandy, Irene, this October snowstorm here in Connecticut, droughts, wildfires all over the planet over the last couple of years, the increase in temperatures, I think people are starting to think that what the majority, 97, 98% of the scientists are saying is true, and we are starting to see the effects of it.
But even if you didn't, what about taking care of our natural resources? Why are we knocking the tops off of mountains? Why are we drilling in the Arctic? Oh, it's senseless. Fracking.
Yeah.
Fracking.
Yeah, and we'll talk about all those in a little more detail.
I'm sorry.
No, well, that's fine. I don't mind us getting ahead of
It's a
ourselves.
conversation, right?
But, you know, when you talked about the First Nation women, it's very interesting that over last weekend, there were a few people who came to St. Francis House in New London from the Peace Pagoda, and they were had a pilgrimage, and they were talking about having met some First Nation women who were fighting for the cleanup of open uranium mines in the Midwest on their ancestral lands. And these mines had largely been abandoned, but they had not been cleaned up, so there was a slew of health and environmental problems associated with it.
Well, the other thing is they were very clear is they are taking this movement to other indigenous people throughout the world, and I think I guess they're feeling a little bit hopeful about connecting with other indigenous folks and supporting each other in trying to protect their ancestral lands. So,
well, while we're on kind of the bad news, let's talk about the Keystone XL pipeline and what's the problem?
Well, the problem is, I think, as Bill McKibben has said very eloquently, it is the fuse to the second largest pool of carbon on the planet. I'm sort of paraphrasing. So we are, and where it is located in Alberta, right now, I believe the development, I don't even want to call it development, the work that's being done there is about the size of Great Britain. By the time they finish this, it will be about the size of Florida, to give you a scope. 30% of all the birds in North America that spend time up in Canada spend time in the boreal forest where this is going on. It matters to sustaining life in the Americas. It matters to, it will increase, so the environmental impact statement that was just released says, yes, it will increase the amount of greenhouse gas emissions by 17% to fully develop these tar sands. They use a tremendous amount of water and poison a tremendous amount of water. There are, again, Aboriginal communities that are living with cancers that are very rare and at high rates because they live near where this processing is going on. So the issue is the people that stand to make a profit off of this are trying to get a way to get this tar sands out of Alberta, and they have to build pipelines. One is across Quebec through Vermont, New Hampshire, out to Maine, so there's a New England outlet they're pursuing. The Keystone XL pipeline also goes across the Ogallala Aquifer, which is, I think it provides water to about 30% of the the land in the United States that is used for crop production. So this is a big issue about that.
So it goes right through the heartland?
It goes right through the heartland. Now they have changed, so since the first environmental impact statement was issued, they have changed the course of that a bit to the point where they were able to get the Republican governor of Nebraska to acquiesce and say, okay, I'll go along with it, although they did not initially. Nebraska fought it really hard. And they are also trying to get it out through Vancouver, which is where this Idle No More and the women chiefs are taking a stand, saying we're not going to let this spoil our land, our water. So I guess that's to say the Keystone XL pipeline is a way to get this huge amount of carbon out and into use. And most of it will not stay here in the Americas. It will be exported onto the global market, of course.
So it's traveling through here a long distance to go everywhere.
To go everywhere, right. Because everything is global, especially on this scale. And yeah.
Well, one of my concerns with so many types of energy extraction these days is that there isn't really much of an energy gain, if anything. We're just using as much energy of one sort to get it out in a different form.
Right. This hydrofracking and this both are showing up to be huge energy users just to produce it. So I'm more familiar with the tar sands. It's just where I've put my time, but you know, they have to kind of cook this tar-like substance to turn it into an oily substance that can then be transported through the pipeline. And it is toxic and much more likely to corrode the pipeline than sort of the traditional oil that we've been used to using. So it's more toxic, and yes, you have to use a lot of water and a lot of, I think they're using natural gas to cook it. So it's a little, yeah, it just sounds a little crazy.
Yeah. Now, natural gas is another issue. You know, fracking has started to be in the news, and natural gas is still all the rage here because once it's here, it burns pretty clean.
Right.
But the process.
Right. So, you know, I want to give Louise a chance to talk, but I'm going to just
No.
I'm preparing to go and testify at our legislative office building in Hartford on Thursday. There's a hearing before the Energy and Technology Commission committee on the governor's bill, which I can't remember the number, but it is how we're going to implement our comprehensive energy strategy in Connecticut. So the good news is that we have a comprehensive energy strategy. Part of it is the governor and Commissioner Esty really want to increase the use of natural gas to, in particular, I think, heat buildings. And what I said in my testimony is that exactly what you said. So once it's in place, it does burn cleaner. But if we try to think about living sustainably on this planet, which I want to say is probably quite a challenge with the amount of people living on the planet and the fact that we haven't had to really think very much up until the recent period of time about what we do on the planet with regards to using resources. But so the natural gas, the way it's being extracted from shale right now, is using toxic chemicals, which is polluting drinking water. So you're putting poisons out into the environment. There's nothing sustainable about having toxins that who knows if and when they can be cleaned up. I mean, there's other components to it. It's not regulated by the Clean Water Act. And so there's all of that. And natural gas, while it is less polluting than oil or coal, it is still polluting. And so what I think a number of organizations, the clean energy advocates, are trying to do is to minimize our use of natural gas by saying that if we are going to expand the use of natural gas, all the buildings that are going to be converting and using the proposed $500 tax credit need to be energy efficient, and they need to do that along with the conversion so that we're minimizing the use of it. And that probably is the guess that it's the governor and the commissioner have been out really campaigning for the use of this. It's probably going to be difficult. It was a whole section in the draft plan, so it's likely that there will be some creation of infrastructure, but how do we minimize it? And how do we give, I think the other call is to give people the opportunity to take a tax credit, maybe to convert to geothermal, or if they're going to build a new building to use geothermal or solar thermal for heating, rather than just using fossil fuels. So that's in my testimony.
Oh, good luck.
Right, I'm putting it out there, right.
Well, no, and you mentioned a little bit about mountaintops. Also, electricity is something that is clean when you're plugging something in at your house, but in the other end of the pipeline might not have been so clean.
Right. How it gets created. Did you want to add anything there?
No, I'm very happy listening.
Well, I mean, honestly, the reason I'm talking so much is it is a place where I've put my mind probably for the past 6 or 7 years on how can we solve these problems. And so this is also a place where on the national level, I'm going to go back a little bit and say that one of the things we need to do as we talk about budget issues on a national level is to end the subsidies for fossil fuels. The costs for solar and wind have gone down dramatically over the past 4 years since President Obama came into office. So it's a lot easier to implement their use. But it would be a lot fairer, and I think it would go a lot faster if we took away the subsidies that we give to mining and to, you know, drilling for fossil fuels. So the other thing in Connecticut, important to know, linking up to our policy here and our energy strategy, is that we have these 3 different classes of energy in Connecticut that we're trying to promote, and it's called a renewable portfolio. Yes, I think that's what if I'm remembering correctly, the RPS. So right now there's a battle around what will be Class 1. Class 1 primarily was meant for solar, wind, run-of-the-river hydro, something that is not damaging entire landscapes.
Right, so it's
not Hydro-Quebec.
Right, it's a smaller scale hydro.
Smaller scale hydro. I wish I could remember all the details, and I just looked it up today. So right now the battle is to not include trash-to-energy incinerators, which are now Class 3, or including hydro from Quebec. So that is something that has been proposed. And so we are fighting to maintain Class 1 because we don't want it to weaken the standards. And we really are just now starting to put programs in place in Connecticut that are going to give people the best opportunities to install solar. So I just want to mention that we really sometimes, I think, to need to go outside of the United States to get a picture of what is possible as far as renewable energy. So almost a year ago, last April, I was able to go to something called the Blue-Green Alliance Conference. This one was held in Philadelphia. One of the sessions that I went to was a workshop that a woman from the Heinrich Boll Foundation led, and it was about the policies that Germany has put in place to meet their standards for renewable energy. In some provinces, they are using 60 to 100% renewable energy. They have been able to revitalize their small towns that were kind of left behind in economic development on the coast by setting up cooperatives where people could invest in the cooperative at maybe as little as $100 in US dollars approximate to be part of this energy cooperative. And they set up something called a feed-in tariff where, particularly on solar, I'm not sure if it was true on wind, but people who invested in that got a higher payback than the fossil fuels. This developed solar to the point where I think about 1 out of every 5 residential homes in Germany now have solar panels on it. On a hot, sunny day, they may not even need to use peak power generation that we do in the United States because they have so much solar working for them at this point. So I want to point this out, that it is possible to generate much more of our electricity here in Connecticut. And while we don't have a tremendous amount of wind potential, there is wind potential in New England that we could commit to making long-term contracts for, so that we are promoting the use of really clean energy that is not polluting. Once it's installed, there's not pollution happening. And our health is going to be better for it, and we are also going to really minimize our carbon footprint. So it's kind of, as well as the fact, I want to say that jobs, this is really important in a state that has an 8.9% unemployment rate.
And people worry all the time if you close down, the conventional power plants, where are people going to work?
Right, and so it's a really legitimate concern. And so again, I'm going to point to Germany because a lot of the people that were in the room were union reps. Their main number one thing is job creation and how do we keep our jobs and create jobs. So when Germany closes down coal plants, there is transition to clean energy work provided for all of those people that worked in the coal plants. For some of the older workers, for instance, the Sierra Club has been involved in a lot of, I feel like I'm talking too much. I want to figure out how to transition out of here. So somebody else's voice can be heard. But I guess what I'm saying is that you have to think about all those pieces. I'm glad you brought it up. They have set that up in Germany also so that there is transition training, and that the University of Massachusetts has a political and economy research institute. The information that they have from their studies is that for every 5 jobs created in the fossil fuel sector of the economy, if we were to take the money that was invested in that, we would create on average about 17 jobs. So the ratio is about 3 to 1. So the fears may be there, and yes, it's going to be a bumpy transition.
Right, because people would need to be retrained.
Right, and I went to a hearing last May. We're trying to retire the last coal-generating coal plant in our state. It's part of the Sierra Club's Beyond Coal, Coal to Clean Energy campaign.
Was that the
Bridgeport? It's in Bridgeport, thing? Right. So the Bridgeport thing is still going on, which is another reason why we need to promote more energy efficiency and renewable electricity generation from renewables. And I looked at most of those guys that are there, and I'm looking at them, and they look like they're my age, like 54, 55 or older. And to me, I'm thinking they're not looking at so much retraining as like, I'm retiring within the next decade. And I just want to say that Sierra Club has worked out in the Northeast to kind of settle when do we retire the coal plants? Yes, we want to retire them, but we can negotiate solutions. If we need a few more years beyond so that some of these people who are not going to be retrained get to retire out, we're going to do that also. I mean, we're trying to work with labor on this, as many people as possible.
Well, and it isn't as though the new technologies will be in place to take those jobs tomorrow, because it takes time to put that new infrastructure in place.
And at the same time, I realize that the young people at the technical high schools around here are learning how to build green houses, and we need to create some jobs for them too. So,
and there was a bit of a controversy maybe 6 months ago in New London that the city council rejected some solar panels in Ocean Beach and in the I think Jennings School or Benny Dover, one of the schools in that area. And one of the concerns was that it would be an eyesore. But I have to tell you, I saw some photos from Germany, even of parking lots that were totally covered. And I'm thinking, in the summer, if you build it right, it could be built to be an eyesore.
Right.
But if you build it right, actually people in summer might prefer to park in the cool spots under the panels than out in the open where the sun is going to heat your car up to 150 degrees while you're enjoying the beach.
Well, Louise, you want to respond to that?
No.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to respond?
I want to say one thing. I guess I always try to think what is for the greater good. So, I drove through my first probably small-scale wind farm going through Pennsylvania a couple of years ago, and to me, knowing that instead of cutting off mountaintops, covering up streams, endangering the water quality of all the people who live near where this mountaintop removal is going on. To know that electricity is being generated by these windmills, I think is inspiring. And yes, we should think about the aesthetics. I am completely in favor of that, but I also think we need to remember that we need to think about the greater good, people's health, and how we're contributing to that, and hopefully not get kind of, I don't know, settling down into just our own little wants and needs, I guess.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Well, on another bit of what I think is good news, it was recently in the news here that Barack Obama has named his choice for new director of the National Environmental Protection Agency, and someone from Connecticut. So, I don't know. What do you think about President Obama's choice of Gina McCarthy?
Well, I think she's a crackerjack innovator, a gutsy gal, and I'm really happy to see her there.
Yep. I don't know. We adopted her. She's from Boston, but she's like ours. You know, I think
I know.
anybody that has been involved in environmental issues in Connecticut or energy issues is pretty excited about this, and I know I'm excited about it. She, as Louise said, she's just, if you ever were able to be around her at a place where she spoke, she's a straightforward, I think, working class woman with this great Boston accent, and she'll tell it like it is, and she uses her great intelligence to use humor in situations, and my understanding is she listens to everybody. I just heard Gwen Eiffel interviewing somebody from the business community yesterday about her nomination, and he said the good thing about Gina is that she is known to listen to the regulated community. So she is also somebody coming out of a working class background who is not looking to kill jobs. She understands that people need to work, and at the same time she is involved in protecting our health and worked on the regional greenhouse gas initiative in the Northeast, first under Governor Romney up in Massachusetts,
Right.
and then
under
as
Governor
she
Rell.
Right.
She's
So,
real.
Yeah.
I met
That's
up with her, I think, at Avery Point a number of years ago. And I told her about my program at the beach.
That's great.
She was very encouraging. I wrote to her, she wrote back. She is real, she cares about people,
Yeah.
and she cares about the environment.
Right. She's got both in her mind all the time. We are part of the environment, but she really does think about people. So we're very excited.
I know
Pleased.
I don't know her at all, but I did hear her speak at some of the Broadwater hearings. I don't know how many years ago that was,
Yeah,
but I
I
think it
know.
was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And, you know, the strong stance against Broadwater that came from the state of Connecticut and also from the state of New York
Right.
really did make a difference. And
Absolutely.
she spoke extremely well.
Yeah, that was, you all worked very hard, I think, in New London on that, and it was just a very pleasing memory to notice where people really could stand up and make a difference. Good memory, yeah.
We've got to keep standing up and writing letters to our congressmen and senators and the President of the United States. He has a hotline. Contact the President. And I've been writing him every day for the past couple of weeks, asking him not to approve the Keystone XL pipeline. It's within everyone's reach. Guys, I'm a computer dummy and I can do it.
And this is a huge issue that I think, looking at it from sort of the outside, but it could really define his presidency, which way he goes on this.
Yeah. You know, and the question I believe that's supposed to be answered, so is this in the best interest of the United States? My judgment is no. It's probably in the best interest of some people who are going to make a lot of money, but I don't see it. It's not staying, yeah, I just don't see that.
Well, I think we're going to take a break, about 3 or 4 minutes for the community calendar, and then when we come back, we'll talk about a couple more issues and also how you can get involved.
Great.
All right.
This once, I'm looking at you, yeah. Good wishes and prayers have come true. And it's like spring in the summertime. It's the rain in a rainforest. And it's like spring in the summertime. It's the rain in a rainforest. My love, you're so beautiful. Let me hold you close to my heart. Send it long distance, my love, this summer. It's a rain in a rainforest. Send you my love in the summertime, like a rain in a rainforest. Calling you the same time, new child will see the sky. Calling you the same time, new child will see the sky. Calling you and meanwhile the new child will say goodbye. Calling you the same time, this heart will cry for you. This once, when you cry, tears from your heart rain down with my tears. Whoa. This once, when you cry, yeah, tears from our hearts keep raining on through. Isn't it like spring in the summer? It's like rain in a rainforest. Isn't it like spring in the summertime? It's a rain in a rainforest. Isn't it like spring in the summer? It's a rain in a rainforest. Or when spring turns to summer, rain in a rainforest. Isn't it like spring in the summertime? It's a rain in a rainforest. Or when spring turns to summer, rain for a rainforest. Isn't it like spring? Spring in a rainforest. Isn't it like spring? Rain for a rainforest. Or when spring turns, rain in a rainforest.
Welcome back to Thinking Green. I'm here with Louise Fabrikevich and Roberta Porro from Sierra Club. And so we talked quite a bit about a comprehensive energy policy and what that would constitute. Another thing that Sierra Club in Connecticut is focusing on in a more support role, I think, is genetically modified food. So do you want to talk just a little bit about that issue?
Do you want to say anything about that, Louise? Or?
It just seems weird.
Yeah, we've got two campaigns going on, right? So as you mentioned, so the comprehensive energy strategy, how to implement that. And the other one is working on getting our foods labeled. And to me, it seems like a simple, you would think it was simple, a simple choice that you have the information that you want to have about what you're putting in your body. So there is a group, I have to say, because I think you can tell I put so much time and effort into energy and I work full time. that isn't where I have put my time and effort, but you might add a little bit there.
Well, in 2 weeks, I think, Will Vanderbilt, who is from the Food and Water Watch Group,
Right.
is going to be on this show and talk in detail about the genetically modified food. But in the meantime, you know, the issue at this point is labeling, which seems like a no-brainer.
Right.
I happened to watch the alternative presidential debates in which Jill Stein and Gary Johnson and Rocky Anderson and I forget, and Virgil Good were debating. And even Gary Johnson, a libertarian, a total small government guy, when someone asked, how do you feel about labeling GE foods? He said, we have to label them because I believe people should be able to make decisions that affect their lives, but they need to get the information to make informed decisions. So even a lot of people who are not for banning genetically engineered foods still think it should be labeled.
I would say so. Now, I mean, I'll say one thing. I hope there is success. I mean, I read this book called Corporations Are Not People, and I don't want to get off track, but apparently in a labeling battle that went on back with the recombinant.
Yeah, recombinant DNA.
Thank you. I'm not saying it right.
Yeah.
That, you know, although the Vermont legislature passed that it needed to be labeled, when it went out to the courts, when it got beyond the first level, the corporations were found to have the right to remain silent on this issue. So we'll see. I mean, we may end up have to amend our Constitution at some point to get control over this issue of how many rights corporations have versus us people who give them charters, you know?
Yeah, that could be a whole different show. And of course, I think about a year and a half ago, David Cobb was in New London and doing a tour all the way through the United States, and corporate rights, personhood rights has been an issue of his since at least 2004 when he was running for president on the green ticket. And it's only became worse with the recent Citizens United court case.
Right. Well, he was the one that made it, going to that program that you all put on, really made me aware of the issue. And I followed up and read this book, which was written by a former assistant state attorney general up in Massachusetts. And it's like, wow, okay.
Now, what other, just a little bit of an overview, what other kinds of issues is Sierra Club advocating for?
Well, it depends. You know, it's big, so you can talk about national issues. We're always trying to protect the Arctic. Out of our heritage, which, you know, out of John Muir establishing it as a conservation organization and then trying to protect particular lands and create national parks and so forth, we have a resilient habitats campaign. And I think the reason our Coal to Clean Energy campaign has taken off so much, it has been the most well-funded portion of our campaign. Mayor Bloomberg gave a huge gift of $50 million a number of years ago, and that's why the Coal to Clean Energy campaign is kind of front and center, because it's the most well-funded portion. But we do have different parts of the United States that we are trying to protect. There's parts of it at Alaska, the California coastline, the North Woods from Maine through the Adirondacks. So there's resilient habitats, and part of that is thinking about the effects of climate disruption on other life forms and what's going to happen to them as they need to move north or move away from where they are. So we're trying to protect very important corridors and very important parts of our different ecosystems, like the Everglades. Right now we have that 100 days of action going on.
Yeah.
Do you want to add a little bit of that?
Well, like I said, I'd like to put a fire under everybody and get them going. Like I said, if this computer dummy can get on the computer for a couple of minutes a day, I think just anybody can. It's well lined out. They ask you like 5 questions, who you are and If you want to leave a message, one sentence would do it, that kind of thing. Write to your congressman. It's easy.
So,
it's easy.
Right. So
Or make that phone call.
Absolutely. And so, when Louise says that, I go back in time and try to remember making that first phone call, and I felt kind of scared and kind of, oh my gosh, I know, I thought the FBI would be looking in. Maybe they were, but I don't care. It's sort of like once you come out of some place where you're kind of left powerless to do anything, and once you start to take action on issues that you care about, I just think it's
it empowers you.
It does. You really become more powerful.
Yes.
You start to make good friends. Really, it really changes your life. And I think they've even shown that people who are active are happier people in general.
I think so.
Well, you get together with like-minded people.
Right.
Usually positive, raring to go. You see it on beach cleanups, on invasive weed removals, on marches, on whatever it takes.
So part of this 100 Days of Action started back like at the inauguration, and it's leading up to about Earth Day. So this rally was a big thing, was to get people going. So how do we keep this going? So partly, in Connecticut, we're going to be planning a couple of town hall meetings. Now, most likely, they're going to be in New Haven and Bridgeport. Why are they in New Haven and Bridgeport? Well, partly, that's where the population density is. It's like Fairfield, New Haven, and Hartford counties. So if people are interested, though, in getting active with the Connecticut chapter of the Sierra Club, and I would encourage that, the best thing to do is probably to go to our website.
Which is like CT?
Connecticut.
Oh, no, it's the whole word
Connecticut.sierraclub.org. When you get there, you'll find links on the left side of the page that you can click on us, contact us, just ways to, we do have a chapter program director who, unless he's on vacation, is in the office, can get back to you, link you up with people that are working in particular areas of the state. So we are planning to have a town hall meeting with Senator Blumenthal and Senator Murphy. Having said that, Connecticut, probably because we don't have fossil fuels, has probably like either the best or one of the best congressional delegations in the country on this issue. I mean, if you look at the League of Conservation Voters, voter guides, they're always getting scores of over 90%. And when you look at the history, some of these people come out of the Connecticut legislature, for instance. So Chris Murphy, we first endorsed him back in the year 2000 when he first ran for the Connecticut legislature. He has been somebody who wants to solve problems related to the environment, and but they need to also know that we have their back. So it's sort of like the same thing with President Obama. We're going to thank him when he makes good decisions, like nominating Gina McCarthy for, to head the EPA.
Absolutely.
And we are challenging him on the Keystone XL pipeline, and we will continue to challenge his administration in places where we think that they are going off course. The idea that we can do the all of the above energy strategy, is sort of a more of the same the way we see it. Somebody else is going to have to talk.
Part of what the Sierra Club does is education. So I'm going to ask Louise, I think we have about 10 minutes to spend maybe 5 minutes talking about what you've been doing at Ocean Beach for all these years.
Okay. All right. Well, it all started with a nature walk. They thought it'd be they had the ideal place. This is Save Ocean Beach organization. They formed, 14, 15, 16 years ago. And boom, I had been involved with scouts. I ran a little nature center at Rocky Neck. I was just tied into the environment, and I had to make a connection. The program is called The Living Museum. It was inspired by and dedicated to the memory of William Nearing, who said all natural areas are living museums. And there isn't a kid from that college, and I see them all the time. I get lots of help. We're getting a group going the first part of April, doing a work right on the nature walk itself. Still, he died in 1999, I believe, and still, his memory is still very strong up there. Okay, I started in with a beach nature walk. It's pretty difficult because people don't want to pay $14, I don't know what they charge now, dollars to go on a nature walk. So it's pretty difficult, even though I would like to do it. What we've been focusing on a beach experience where we have New Women school children come down to the beach for a program. A morning at the beach, playing in the sand, looking for crabs, and learning about seashells and maybe going on a nature walk. It's a fun experience, and I'm always thinking of ways to try different approaches. We are signed up with the Connecticut Hikes event June 1st, where many municipalities are encouraged to offer walks. And we signed up because we want to show off our new connector trail that connects the observation deck to the garden gateway down in the parking lot.
Now, how do people sign up for that?
A booklet's coming out.
That's through the Connecticut Trails, right? Or something like
that. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, Forest and Parks, Connecticut Forest and Parks Association?
Maybe. I think it might be that, but it's Connecticut Trails Day.
It is, that first weekend in June, right?
Yeah, so they're putting out a booklet, and I'm sure there's going to be publicity. With all nature walks, you just can't say, just come. You can't. You can't take a group of 30 on a nature walk very well. So it's limited. It has to be limited in size. Otherwise, people can't hear you. They're stepping all over the plants and that kind of thing. But we're quite excited about that. And like I said, the connector trail is finished.
Cool.
And we're getting ready to write a grant to extend from the garden gateway in the parking lot a path leading down to the Highland Avenue road. We're calling it the Highland Extension.
Now we have about 4 more minutes. So are there any other events or meetings or anything that you want to talk about?
We should mention where we meet, and April is Earth Month, and I think it's likely that we will be at the Earth Day, which it will be event that's being planned at Yukon Avery Point. The Eco Huskies, we ran into, myself and John Calandrelli ran into them at a Yukon women's basketball game a few weekends ago, and they invited us to come and table. So I think, although it's not quite set up, I think it's April 25th, it's a Thursday. I'm sure they'd love to have the public get over there. And Louise, do you want to mention our group meeting?
Oh, yes. We meet at the college the second Wednesday in the month, and at the Crozier Student Center, and usually in the Alice Johnson meeting room. Also, the Dragon's Egg in Ledgett is having an Earth Day event.
Oh, wow. Now, you mentioned calling the White House, of course, for the state legislation that's being proposed, both about comprehensive energy plan and GE labeling. How do people go about acting on that?
Well,
is there...
You know, if they're ready to submit testimony, there is a place. If they want some help in kind of learning about how to do that, they should again go to connecticut.sierraclub.org, where you can find our phone number, which I do not have memorized, to the Hartford office. But somebody who can kind of hold their hands and do that. So let me find, if you're ready to submit testimony, I think it is due by March 15th. It would be et.testimony cga.ct.gov. So that is the Energy Technology Committee.testimony@cga.ct.gov.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
you can go to the hearing Thursday, March 7th at 11
Right.
o'clock.
which is
Go
this.
with, but how do you connect? Connect again if you want
Right.
to go with me from southeastern Connecticut. I'm going. I'll be there probably till 4. I just want to warn people. A lot of people will be there. You may or may not. If you want to testify, you might have to stay till after supper, and I'm planning to leave about 4 o'clock. I already have an appointment with my state rep. I've planned to listen and drop off my testimony.
Right,
but
and you bring something like 30
if you want
copies,
to,
right?
16 I'm going to
Yeah.
have done at Staples. But if they want to go, contact Connecticut Sierra Club. They'll contact me, and we'll hook up and drive out to Hartford.
Okay, well, thank you. We didn't get to quite everything, but we got to almost everything. But thanks a lot, and everyone knows
Thank you
now
for having
how
us.
to get involved. Next week, we're going to have a musical show. Grandma Dot Nielsen will be on. I'm not sure which musician she's bringing on, but she promised a nice acoustic music set as well as talking about what's going on in the music scene in New London. And that'll be next Tuesday. So we'll see you then. And thank you, Roberta, and thank you, Louise.
Thank you for having us.
Isn't she a smarty poo? Yeah.
Well, I thought we were out of time.